My name is Madison Martinez, and I am a sophomore biology major here at the U of A. My art is located at the Crystal Bridges Museum of Art in Bentonville, Arkansas. It is located only 45 minutes away from where I currently live in Fayetteville. My video is on the Bachman-Wilson House, which is architecturally and decoratively designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. Frank Lloyd Wright was an American architect that built private houses in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Wright created the prairie style, which sought to integrate architecture and the natural landscape. There is an emphasis on the horizontal, with low boundary walls and asymmetrical arranged horizontal planes. Wright's structures were classic Usonian architecture. Wright created this term to describe a distinctly American style of residential architecture he developed during the Great Depression to be within the reach of the average middle-class American family. The Bachman-Wilson House was originally built for the Wilson family in 1956 along the Millstone River in New Jersey. Later, when a flood threatened the existence of the house, the architect team wanted to preserve it, so they sold the house to Crystal Bridges. The entire structure was taken apart, moved to Bentonville, and then was reconstructed in 2015. The house is now located near the museum's south entrance. This house is composed of white brick and dark wood. It has long planes of wood overhanging parts of the building. The lines of this house are all straight in both the vertical and horizontal. Lines are very important in Wright's architectural design. The house has a lot of windows to feature nature. This lets in a lot of light to counteract the small space of the rooms and hallways. The house is very organic and simple. The interior design matched the exterior. It was composed of simple neutral colors with built-in furniture. There is an emphasis of lines in the furniture as it matches up with the lines on the walls and floor. Frank Lloyd Wright's art reflected who he was as a person. Using the biography-autobiography methodology is the best way to analyze the Bachman-Wilson House. Frank Lloyd Wright was born in Wisconsin and would spend his summers in Spring Green. It was there where he fell in love with the landscape he explored as a young boy. He enjoyed nature, and it was the main focus in his architectural work. Nature was Wright's most inspirational force. He brought aspects of nature into his houses and buildings with his use of natural light and neutral tones. He always built them with large windows to bring natural light in and to overlook nature. His architectural design was meant to balance with the surrounding landscape. The vertical and horizontal lines of the house balance out the lines made by the horizon and the trees in the background. The glass walls in the house make nature a constant, visible presence from within the house. Every element made to create this house was a representation of Wright's inspiration of nature. Cubism is described as a style of painting and sculpture developed in the early 20th century, characterized by an emphasis on formal structure and the reduction of natural forms to their geometrical equivalents. Cubist architecture is achieved through shapes such as cubes, prisms, pyramids. Frank Lloyd Wright's houses combine a cubist form with the influence of Japanese architecture. The Bachman-Wilson House features geometric shapes like rectangular prisms, cubes, and triangular glasswork. Frank Lloyd Wright's architecture was a melt of Cubism and Japanese architectural influence. This Japanese art influence set him apart from other American architects. He was inspired mainly by Ernest Fellinoso and his idea of organic lines. Wright also enjoyed a Japanese print artist, Katsushika Hokusai, who constructed organic shapes and objects breaking a frame. Wright similarly allowed elements to breach the frame of his architectural drawings. The Bachman-Wilson House, like the other Wright buildings, have elements extending the house. All of the buildings made by Frank Lloyd Wright featured Cubism and Japanese architecture influence. For example, his house, titled Falling Water, has certain geometric planes overhanging the rocks and waterfall beneath it to give an organic shape like the Japanese. The vegetation surrounding Falling Water framed the house just like the Japanese art prints did. The Guggenheim Museum has geometric shapes like the spiral, circle, and rectangular planes, but also features the Japanese overhang of part of the building. Wright's art features geometric shapes along with organic shapes inspired by Japan. I chose this piece because my mom has talked about Frank Lloyd Wright for years, and I finally wanted to see why he and his buildings were so worth mentioning. I really like his work as art. I enjoy its aesthetic. Looking at his buildings from a customer perspective, I don't really enjoy the work. The built-in furniture and small space are not entirely popular nowadays. I think all of his buildings hold value more for his architectural style and the reasoning behind them than for the actual use of a house. Frank Lloyd Wright and his houses are very well known. Most houses are museums nowadays, and only a few remain as homes for families. This shows that the value is now placed in its history more than its use.